And so people that give it the effort and that take chances, they deserve a certain amount of credit.
Without him, there wouldn't have been a gold rush. So we're all good.
So we're just gonna push on Tony's side onto his ground, but only until his license expires at midnight. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're in the water. I don't care if it's soup. Get it over the line. If we can get like 100 feet across that whole section. Do you know what it's going to cost to move the back? Tony Beets is taking Parker Schnabel to court for stealing gold right from under his nose. In a heated feud that has torn through the Yukon, the veteran Tony Beets claims that Parker has been trespassing on his land, snatching gold that isn't his. As the courtroom battle unfolds, it's clear this isn't just about gold. It's about pride, power, and control. Tune in to see how far each will go, because what happens next will shock everyone. The battle for gold and ego in the untamed wilderness of the Yukon. It's the Wild West all over again, but instead of gunfights, it's about who can dig up the most shiny rocks. And let's be real, it's not just about the gold. It's about bragging rights, big egos, and who can out-scheme the other to end up at the top. In one corner, we have Parker Schnabel, the so-called golden boy who thinks he's reinventing mining, the place that I'd heard a lot about. I wanted to go check it out, see why there was so much gold there, how they were finding it, what the infrastructure was like and what the miners were like, and see what kind of opportunities there were. In the other, Tony Beets, the veteran who treats his operation like it's still 1890, because to him, the old ways are the only ways. The stakes have never been higher, and the next move will either make history or bury dreams under tons of dirt. A lot of the stuff that's on the hill right now, 75% of that's gotta stay there. The elder miner is stomping around the Klondike like some ancient Viking warlord, all about big hulking machines and dredges that belong in a museum. He's got a simple philosophy. If it worked back then, it'll work now, and anyone who says otherwise can take a hike. He doesn't care about shiny tech or fancy innovations. Give him a 100-ton piece of metal and some diesel fuel and he's good to go. The younger prospector, on the other hand, is all about efficiency and cutting-edge gadgets. He's like the annoying tech-savvy nephew who keeps telling his uncle that his typewriter is outdated. It's not that the young digger is wrong, but let's face it, it's the Yukon's dirt we're talking about, not Silicon Valley. Their rivalry started out innocently enough, a bit like an uneasy truce between a mentor and a cocky apprentice. The up-and-comer got his start under the seasoned miner's grizzled supervision, learning the ropes while trying not to get crushed by the guy's larger-than-life persona. But as the young man's ambitions grew, so did the cracks in their relationship. You could almost hear the rumbling as the apprentice started carving out his own empire, complete with drones, high-tech wash plants, and all the bells and whistles the old-timer despised. It wasn't long before they went from a kind of mentorship to full-blown enemies, and all that tension has come to a head this season. That's a big one, and it's tough to do. With a lot of it is like having good parts and having good parts availability and people and having some of that infrastructure on site. This isn't just about mining. No, this is personal. They have been circling each other for years, and it's clear neither one's willing to back down. Every season it's something else. Disputes over land leases, who gets access to water, and most recently the seasoned dredger accusing the younger prospector of swiping his gold. Apparently the young miner's ambitions got a little too close to his rival's turf, and the old hand's not having it. Now he's dragging the younger digger to court, claiming that the young gun has been sneaking into his land and hauling away chunks of his gold like some sneaky raccoon. The younger man denies it, of course, but does anyone really believe either of them at this point? These two are pros at pointing fingers and raising hell. The older dredger, never one to play things subtle, insists that the young miners turn from a bold risk-taker into an outright thief. It's almost poetic. The veteran's all about mining the old-fashioned way, and now he's stuck in an equally old-fashioned court fight. And while he could have settled things quietly, that's not his style. He'd rather take his chances in front of a judge, a spectacle for the entire Yukon, not to mention the audience glued to the show. Just to make his point, the man loves a good showdown, and if dragging his rival through a what is, the younger gold seeker, on the other hand, is acting like he's too busy trying to meet his ridiculous 5,000-ounce gold goal to pay his opponent any attention. He might not say it outright, but he probably thinks the lawsuit is nothing but a distraction. And that's his game. Stay focused, push forward, and hope the old man just burns himself out. But here's the thing. The seasoned miner doesn't burn out. He doubles down, and that's exactly what's happening now. The younger prospector may have the tech, but the older man's got decades of stubbornness, and that counts for something in this kind of fight. The lawsuit itself is just the tip of the iceberg. It's like watching two bulldozers heading for a collision, each convinced they're gonna come out on top. The elder miner claims his rival's trespassing and taking gold that's rightfully his, and he's not interested in just compensation. He wants the young prospector to bleed. It's not about money. It's about territory, about dominance, and about putting the young upstart in his place. The younger man's legal team is, of course, calling the whole thing nonsense, saying it's just another way for the old man to throw a wrench into his operation. Meanwhile, the young digger's trying to keep his crew focused on the dig. But let's be honest, the tension's thicker than a Yukon frost. For viewers, it's high drama. Who's lying? Who's telling the truth? And more importantly, who's going to come out on top when the dust settles? The younger prospector might have youth and innovation on his side, but the veteran's got experience and an iron will. It's a classic battle of old school versus new school, and neither side seems ready to blink. The courtroom scenes, no doubt, will be dramatic, full of accusations, maybe a few threats, and definitely a lot of posturing. The older man's already got that glare, like he's daring his rival to cross him again, while the young digger's probably going to try his best to look like the innocent party, which, let's face it, is a tough sell at this point. And then there's the question of the gold itself. If the young miner's been mining on his rival's land, intentionally or not, it means a lot more than just a legal headache. It means his whole operation could be compromised. The seasoned prospector's made it very clear. He's not just coming for compensation. He wants his rival out of the game, or at least cut down to size. It's the kind of ultimatum you'd expect from someone who spent their entire life digging in the dirt, fighting against every kind of hardship the Yukon can throw at them. The young digger's fighting back, of course, because admitting fault would mean losing face, and he's got too much riding on his reputation as the golden prodigy to let his rival steamroll him. Tension rises as Tony and Parker push their crews to the limit, both determined to come out on top. Tradition versus innovation. Tony Beets and Parker Schnabel are at the center of a heated feud, dragging everyone around them into the mess. Meanwhile, the miners actually doing the backbreaking work are caught in the middle. The Vikings crew, loyal as always, are ready to back him up no matter what, because he's the kind of guy who'd go to the ends of the Yukon for his team. The young boss's crew, mostly a younger lot, are more concerned about keeping their jobs than getting involved in their leader's beef. They just want to hit their targets and avoid getting pulled into a courtroom circus. But it's tough to stay neutral when their paycheck depends on someone who's constantly clashing with the competition. The legal battle is bound to drag on, with each side gathering evidence and calling in witnesses, which in this case probably means a lot of grizzled miners with a chip on their shoulder. The Viking side will try to prove that the young boss is a thief, while the latter will argue that the elder is just out to sabotage him. It's messy, it's dramatic, and it's exactly the kind of thing that keeps viewers coming back for more. And while all this unfolds, the gold, the actual reason any of them are out there, is almost an afterthought. Because at this point, it's not about getting rich, it's about winning, no matter how it ends. This feud is a reminder that gold mining isn't just about the shiny stuff pulled out of the ground. It's about egos, grudges, and the need to be the last one standing. The veteran's not going to stop until the youngster is put in his place, and the latter's not going to let the former push him around. It's a showdown of stubbornness, and in the harsh Yukon wild, where nothing comes easy, that's often the deciding factor in who wins and who goes home empty-handed. The landscape of the Yukon is as unforgiving as the rivalry itself. It's a place that strips away all the fluff and forces miners to get their hands dirty, sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively. Both men know this better than anyone, and that knowledge drives every decision they make. There's no cushy office with air conditioning, no easy days, just endless dirt, massive machinery, and a constant fight against time. weather, and each other. And in the middle of all this, they're throwing punches through a lawsuit, hoping that one of them will finally fall down for good. The court case drags on for weeks, turning into a full-blown spectacle. Reporters start swarming around, hungry for the latest drama between these two titans of the Vikings. Gruff demeanor is front and center, unapologetically barking at anyone who gets in his way. He's in it for the long haul, and he's got every intention of making sure the younger competitor knows it. The courtroom scenes play out like a boxing match, each round adding more tension to the already thick air. The older man's lawyers pull out old maps, faded and dog-eared, proving where his claims lie, pointing out every inch they say the opposition crossed. The young man counters with satellite images, new tech trying to outshine the old-school methods, showing how they believe boundaries were misinterpreted. It's not just about facts or maps, it's about undermining each other's credibility. The veteran's lawyer paints his rival as an overeager kid who didn't know better, someone who jumped in too deep without understanding the real rules. The defense, on the other hand, argues that the old-timer's claims are deliberately misleading, designed to block the young leader's success at every turn. They argue that the boundaries being asserted are out of date and never officially documented. It's a word-for-word, blow-by-blow battle, one that keeps both crews in limbo, uncertain about whether they'll be able to keep working or if their hard-earned gold might suddenly belong to the other side. While the courtroom drama unfolds, the seasoned miner is still all about keeping his crew working. They keep the dredges going, hoping the courts will side with them and make all the effort worthwhile. The Viking is stubborn, relentless, and refuses to let a legal fight stop the mining process. His machines plow through dirt, creating massive piles of pay dirt, and the noise from his operation seems to get even louder, almost as if he's trying to make sure the young competitor hears it every time they switch on a machine. He knows that even if the lawsuit doesn't work out in his favor, he'll still have the gold he pulled out of the ground while the rival is sitting in a courtroom. And that might be enough to come out ahead. The younger boss, of course, isn't slowing down either. He pushes his team harder, throws more money at new tech, and calls in a few favors. He needs those ounces, not just for his reputation, but to pay off the mountain of bills he's built up along the way. He knows he's walking on a tightrope. Any mistake in everything he's worked for could collapse. And yet, even with the pressure mounting, he doesn't change course. He's not about to give the older rival the satisfaction of seeing him sweat. He keeps his focus on the gold, on the numbers, as if mining more ounces will solve everything. The lawsuit, the feud, the tension. But deep down, everyone knows it's not just about the gold. It's about beating the Viking. The ripple effects of the lawsuit spread beyond just these two. Other miners start taking sides. Some align with the veteran, seeing him as a symbol of the grit and determination needed to survive in the Yukon. They admire his old-school toughness, the kind of guy who doesn't back down. Others see the young boss as the future, someone willing to change things up, to take risks that might actually make mining more efficient. The camps are divided, and the tension is palpable, even among miners who aren't directly involved. It's almost as if this feud has become a proxy war for the future of gold mining itself. Old versus new, tradition versus innovation. The rivalry continues as Tony and Parker push through the aftermath, both still focused on finding gold. Divided family, happy rating. The show's producers, of course, are eating it up. Every confrontation, every new twist in the court case makes for perfect TV. They play up the rivalry, editing scenes to make the feud seem even more intense than it already is. Footage of Tony scowling as Parker's equipment digs up gold, of Parker rolling his eyes while Tony's dredge moves pay dirt. It's all there to keep viewers on the edge of their seats, and it works. People tune in week after week, drawn to the drama, the spectacle of it all, because at its core, it's not just about gold. It's about human nature, about rivalry, ambition, and the lengths people will go to prove themselves. Meanwhile, the Yukon itself remains indifferent. The rivers keep flowing, the winters keep freezing the ground solid, and the endless stretches of dirt and gravel don't care one bit about who's winning or losing. The land is harsh, unforgiving, and it's always the real challenge. Tony and Parker can fight each other all they want, but at the end of the day, It's the Yukon that decides who finds gold and who goes home empty-handed. And maybe that's the irony of it all. They're battling each other, but their real enemy is the land they're trying to conquer. As the season progresses, both sides start to feel the strain. Tony's crew, always fiercely loyal, begins to question how much longer they can keep this up. The long hours, the uncertainty of the lawsuit, and the relentless drive Tony demands of them. It's all starting to wear them down. They're tired, they're frustrated, and even though they won't say it to Tony's face, they're worried. What if the court sides with Parker? What if all this work is for nothing? Tony's pushing them hard, harder than ever, because he knows that every ounce they pull now would make a difference in the courtroom later. He won't let them slow down, and they respect him enough to keep going, but the cracks are starting to show. Parker's crew isn't much better off. They're young, ambitious, but they're also exhausted. Parker's drive is relentless, and while they admire his determination, it's hard to keep up. The lawsuit looms over them like a dark cloud, and they know that if Parker loses, it could mean layoffs, a complete halt to operations, or worse. Parker tries to keep their spirits up, promising them that everything will work out, that they just need to keep digging, keep pushing. But even he knows that there are no guarantees. They're all just trying to get through it, one day at a time, hoping that when the dust finally settles, they'll still have jobs and a claim to work. The courtroom drama continues, with witnesses called, evidence presented, and both sides digging in their heels. Tony's side brings in experts to testify about mining boundaries, old contracts, and the history of the claims. Parker's team counters with their own experts, arguing that Tony's boundaries are outdated and that Parker was well within his rights to mine where he did. It's a battle of paperwork, of technicalities, and neither side seems willing to budge. The judge listens, takes notes, and everyone waits, wondering what the verdict will be. Back at the claims, the work goes on. Tony keeps dredging, keeps pushing his crew to their limits. He knows that if he stops now, Parker will see it as a sign of weakness, and Tony can't allow that. Parker, meanwhile, is doing everything he can to hit his targets, to prove that he's still the prodigy everyone says he is. The tension between them is almost unbearable, each man trying to outwork, outlast, and outsmart the other. And all the while, the Yukon watches, indifferent to their struggles, their rivalry, their desperate need to come out on top. When the verdict finally comes in, it's almost anticlimactic. The judge rules that Parker did, in fact, overstep his boundaries, but it wasn't intentional. There's a fine to be paid, some compensation for Tony, but it's not the crushing blow Tony was hoping for. Parker breathes a sigh of relief. He's still in the game, still has his claims, and can keep mining. Tony, though clearly disappointed, takes it in stride. He's not happy, but he's not done either. He'll keep mining, keep pushing, and keep fighting, because that's what he does. The season ends with both men back at their claims, the lawsuit behind them, but the rivalry very much alive. Tony, ever the old school miner, keeps his machines running, keeps his crew working, determined to prove that the old ways are still the best. Parker, with his gadgets and his ambition, keeps pushing forward, convinced that innovation is the key to success. And the Yukon, as always, remains the same, harsh, unforgiving, and full of gold for those willing to fight for it. What do you think? Is Parker's ambition the future, or is Tony's resilience the key to survival? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts.